Mr. Frank, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you
Mr.
hear me?
Frank, yes, good afternoon. Please, you can
Yeah.
take
Can
over.
you hear me?
Yes, yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Permit me to share my screen first. First of all, good afternoon, everybody. Um, I hope we're having a wonderful, wonderful time. I hope we're really learning. And I just hope that this session as well will be as much interesting as the previous ones you've had today. Please, at any point, at any point you can't see my screen or hear my voice, please, I would ask that you call my attention, maybe on the chat, or you can unmute your mic and then speak. So can you confirm if you can see my screen, please?
Yes, you can see your screen. Please go ahead.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Good afternoon again, everybody. My name is Frank Enetomeh. I'll be your facilitator for this section, and I believe you've gained value, like I said, following the sessions you've had so far. Today we're going to be talking about a topic, resource management, specifically through the lessons of the resources performance domain. I believe you've had several lectures on all the performance domains so far, from scope down to all of them. So this is one of them that we're going to be treating, and it's on resource management. But let me ask a question before we go ahead with the section today. I don't know how many persons we have here on the call who are project managers or those who are interested in project management, or you just love the idea of project management and you just want to know about it, or is it a project management is something you are actually doing currently as a person, or is just something you are interested in, right? So I would like us to go in the chat room. I just want to have an idea of who my audience are and their line of interest in respect to project management. Because some of the things we'll be sharing today are very critical. They're going to be deep things, right? So I really want to know, are you practicing project management, a professional project manager, or you just have interest in project management because maybe you just want to have the knowledge of it so that you know how to do or go about your day-to-day activity or activities rather. So, quickly, what category do you fall in? I would love to know what category do you fall in? Or you're just taking this course as, okay, it's part of the requirement for this particular diploma program. Okay, what's your area of interest in respect to project management as a whole? Please, just one line, or just a sentence can help me get an idea of those I'm speaking to, right? You're just interested about it, you're just fascinated about it, or you're practicing project management or whatever. Kindly, please, I would love to get an idea from you guys. Anybody? Startup, okay? Startup entrepreneur, of course, you're gonna need project management insights, obviously. Thank you, Mr. Edward. All right, thank you. Yes, I'm interested in PM. Good. To be a practitioner, thank you. I'm interested in learning or knowing project management, but I've done okay. Good one, sir. Any other person? Just one or two more persons, and then I'm good. I want to be a professional in the field. I'm amazing, honesty. That's good. Just like your name, honesty. You're honest. What a honest conversation. Good. Okay. Right. So I am very, very happy to be part of that journey. Like myself, I'm very, very fascinated about project management. And let me just quickly share this. Just to tell you how impactful the Transformation College program is all about. I'm a product of this exact program. So it's a thing of honor that I'm here sharing with you some of the things that I have also learned. And then my little experience in the field for a couple of years now, just to share with you. But just to let you know that Transformation College is one of those experiences you would never forget in a hurry. Speaking to you is someone who is a product of that experience. And so I'm very happy to be part of that journey with you. So far, so many things have been said in respect to project management, but I just want to talk about this as I've been assigned to speak about resource management. So one thing that you should have at the back of your mind quickly, maybe you want to jot it down somewhere, or you just want to keep that in your heart, is this. I actually noted it down somewhere. When we think of resources as the fuel of the project engine. That should be one of the things you should keep at the back of your mind. Think of resources as the fuel of the project engine. You may want to write that down. Alongside, you can also note that um, you can also note alongside that you can design. Okay. Professionals examination is a different ball game entirely. Okay, we may talk about that after the meeting. All right, sir. All right, sir. So good. So resource, like I said, you can if somebody can type it on the chat box, or you can write it on your notes, or just type it somewhere. Resources are the fuel of the project engine. You can design the most brilliant car in the world on paper, but without the fuel, without the right grade of fuel, at the right time, it does not move an inch. Is for me, it's just something to keep at the back of your mind. So when we think about this particular phrase or sentence I just made, the car represents the project, right? The fuel represent the resources that is required to execute the project. The right grade of fuel is like the right type. Not every resource is actually the best resource for the exact project. So the right grade of project. There are some persons, take for example, if the federal government wants to build a 7 lane or 6 lane or more than multiple lanes of asphaltic pavements, right? They won't, well, maybe for some reasons, politically anyway, they would want to outsource or maybe contract Julius Berger, right? Obviously, they have their own reasons, but for me, as a project person, I think hardly have we seen so far to a high degree um, Nigerian local companies who have proven so much that they have that resource capacity to deliver massive, gigantic projects. So sometimes you see them going, although you and I know some of them have interior motive in respect to that, but I'm speaking from a different perspective. Some of the issues we have in some of the companies we have in Nigeria, especially in the aspect of construction, manufacturing, is always a question about competence or quality of resources. So just having resources does not really necessarily mean that the project will be successful. We have a guy that just said, okay, let me give you a humorous story recently that happened. It's one of my, I think it was on the call today, Mr. Shegulawa. It's a mentor also of mine. So he's also a pastor. And so he came, we were discussing recently, and then he mentioned something that somebody, a drunk guy, just drove a car and hit the a corner of the building, the church building, right? And that corner actually has a column that is holding a cantilever beam. So damage was huge. And so he was like, I'm going to get somebody that is certified, that is an expert in this job, to actually tell me what are we going to do about it. And the drone guy was just, I have an engineer, I have this person, he's going to do it, he's going to work it out. And so obviously he said, okay, let me call, first of all, let me call somebody that I know. So he spoke to somebody else who is a certified architect, very, in fact, he has over 18, 20 years experience in the field. And then the man had to send one of his boy. Can you imagine that? Like that one he called his boy, somebody that is also very, very competent in the job. So the guy came and then said, this is going to cost A, B,
Hi,
C, D, and Z to fix
Mr.
it.
Frank.
And the drone guy said,
Okay,
yes.
your slide is not moving. You are still on the first slide.
I
Okay,
know.
okay, that's
Don't
fine.
worry. Don't worry. Yeah, yeah. I just want to prep our minds to what we're expecting, so I will not just have a whole lot of jargons, but then just to know there's the practical experience aligned with the theory, right? So don't worry, I'll be fast with my slide. Don't just worry, right? So back to my little story. So the man was like, okay, brought the experts, and then the man said, to fix this job, it's A, B, C, D, and Z cost. And the drone guy, obviously, he's back to his senses by now. Like 1 million naira. He said, I have a guy, a real side guy that can fix this thing. There's nothing really here. Because the wall is not actually showing, it's just crack, right? This other guy came with some tools and to then test the strength of, just did some test there about to know what has gone wrong. So this guy said, okay, I have my person to call. We're talking about quality, competence of resources, right? And then he mentioned one guy, the guy came, he said, there's nothing here now. We can just bring down the blocks and put them back. It won't cost up to 150. Now, the issue there is practically about quality of resources, right? Quality of resources. The experts just laughed over it and told the pastor that, well, if you want to go by with this guy, obviously in a few years' time, you know, because this is a cantilever beam, and this is the only support system for that expand. So what we're looking at here is in project management, resources is critical, very, very critical. And that's why we are going to be looking at that in a moment, right? So the agenda for our meeting today is very simple. We'll be having a theory aspect, and then we'll be having a practical aspect to the training. And then there may be room for of question and answer. There's going to be two live polls during the course of the meeting. The theory aspect, we are going to be looking at 5 processes that makes up the resource performance domain, which has been stratified into three phases rather. Phase 1 is the planning phase or the planning process. Phase 2 is the executing process, and phase 3 is monitoring and control. When you plan, you execute, and then you ensure there's appropriate control and monitoring of that which has been planned and executed or still being in execution, right? So, practically, according to the PMBOK, there's this part, normal breakdown for PMBOK is broken down into input, tools and technique, and then output. It's simple. It's more like saying garbage in, garbage out, or garbage in, processing, garbage out. So that's how the project management body of knowledge is actually built. I have input. For every process, there is an input, and then there are certain tools, techniques that is used to carry out those inputs, and there obviously is the output, the expected outcome of that entire process. So we'll be looking at that. The second part is going to be we also drawing these two real life experiences, practicable experiences, and at the end of the day, we may have, just for the sake of interaction, we'll have 2 live polls in between the training. Good. So our learning objective is this. Before we kickstart anything today, we need to understand what we are expecting to get, right? So we have these different 6 objectives. Permit me, I'll be fast with some of them because I would love us to have a practical session. The last time I was on the call, there was not enough time for me because I think I took enough time explaining a whole lot. So we didn't really do much about the practical, but I really want us to have that. So our first objective today is to explain what the resource performance domain is talking about specifically and why it actually matters. So it's not just having, you can have a Gantt chart, you can have several processes planned up for your project, but we want to look at why actually these things actually matters. And then second objective is we'll differentiate the five processes are embedded in the three phases. We'll differentiate the five processes. So I'll walk you through those five processes one after the other. And then the third objective is to then apply the resource estimating techniques would apply them, or we learn how they can be applied to rate. Like the fourth objective, we're going to be looking at recognizing risk that surrounds acquiring a resource. To get a resource, what are the risks I, as a project manager, should put at the back of my mind? That's what that section is about. The first section is to describe and describe and specifically what separates a team that is merely present, than a team from a team that is genuinely high performing. You can have a team of people, resources on a project, and then there's a huge difference between them and having a team that is highly performing, where there's trust, there's shared ownership, there's collaboration, there's resilience, and all of that. Okay. So the last objective of our learning today would be to have that practical session, which we may be using Claude. We'll be using Claude to build up resource management plan. And then we'll be using ClickUp to then stratify the resources overly setting tasks. So when you have resource, you have to tax them. And so ClickUp can help you stratify that. Everybody knows what they are doing, assigning roles to every part of the job. Okay, so now let's discuss what is resource performance in respect to resource performance domain in respect to the PMBOK 8th edition. The PMBOK actually defined resources or resource management as effectively and efficiently. Please, can you still hear me?
Yes, sir. Can hear you, sir.
Hello?
Clearly.
Oh,
We
thank
can
you.
hear you,
Thank you.
sir.
I just saw a sign. All right. Thank you very much. I just saw a sign that my network, I just saw a sign. So thank you very much. All right. So PMBOK defined resource management as effectively and efficiently um, planning the project team and utilizing its available resources. That's according to PMBOK, right? So, but let me just simplify that definition for you. Resource management is about making sure your project has what it needs, which is the people, the things, and also that you are using those things wisely and not wastefully. I think that's a much simpler way to say is having the right the project is making sure you have what you need in respect to the people, the things, and then you also, as a project manager, rightfully, wisely using them and not. So two words come to mind when we look at effectively and the word efficiently, right? So effectively means that you have the right resources for the job, effectively, the correct skilled person, for the job, the correctly specified equipment for the job. Efficiently now then means you not wasting what you have. So it's a side-by-side conversation. You may have good people, good resources, and then you don't know how to maximize them. Or you may you may have the skill, the knowledge way, skill of maximizing effective resources, but you don't have it available at your beck and call in a certain project. And so how to put these two things into perspective is now then what the entire concept of resource management is all about. So there are three categories: resource, or when we look at the project, yeah, we have it in three major categories: the human resource, which is your project team, the real people. They have real people with names, actually. The skill levels, when you have certain resources in respect to human, and then you've evaluated their skill set, you then know which area this person is good at and which area this person is good at. Which part of the job do I have to deploy this person? Which area of the job do I have to deploy this person? I worked in a construction firm some years ago, and there is this certain man, we call him Baba. He didn't go to school, but Baba knows what every equipment, every machine can do. Like every machine, the grader, the excavator, the payloader, Baba knows what it's all about. So this is somebody, if you want to judge by education, you say he doesn't have the educational experience, but this man has practical experience, especially when it comes to road works. So the job of the project manager is to know, not just saying, okay, you didn't go to school. Where is your degree? Does this person actually have the skill set? Does he have real capacity to actually deliver the job? Other areas can be virtual resources in respect to equipment, materials, facilities. For those in the IT world, like software licenses, these are resources. Cloud infrastructure, texting environment, these are resources for you. And the third part of resource in respect to project management is, resource management is financial resources, the budget, the cost estimate, the funding, the cash flow, the expenditure management, all of this are tied to financial resources. So I just want you to keep that at the back of your mind as we continue to move ahead with our conversation. We can have let me just give an analogy. Like, let's say, think about making a real meal for 20 persons. You need a cook. That's a human resource. The pot, the pan, the kitchen, these are physical resources. Then the money for ingredients, these are financial resources. So these three things are obviously tied together. And so your job as a project manager is to effectively manage these three dimensions, should I call them, or three types, whatever that can be, to give you the expected or to achieve the project objective at the end of the day, right? So moving on to the next slide. Mapping this entire process it demands a whole lot, right? So under the planning, remember I told you we have three phases: the planning phase, executing phase, and the monitoring and control phase. The planning phase is where there are two processes involved in the planning phase. We have the plan that we have to plan the resource management, like you come up with a resource management plan. This is where you have to decide how, or this helps you to decide how you will estimate, acquire, and lead or use resources on a certain project. Then under that same planning, we also have another process called estimate resource. It is where you figure out what and how much you actually need. Like, for example, you do a head count. For example, if I want to have like a labor job to be done in a site, I can then say, you can't just come and say, give me 20 labor, right? This is you saying, I need laborers on the site. Estimate resources saying, how many do you need on the site? Oh, for this kind of job, I need just 2 masons. Oh, for this kind of job, I need 3 masons. So it is a very critical aspect of project management. Under executing, you have also 2 resources. One is acquire. Having estimated, you have to go and search for the resource. And then you have to lead. Under executing is acquiring, and then effectively guiding, managing the resources. that you've acquired, leading the team, managing the resources that you've acquired. And then under monitoring and control, we just have just one process, and that is to monitor and to control. It's also a very critical aspect in respect to resource management. This is where you make sure that the resources are being used as planned, and then taking corrective action the moment they are not. For example, as you're going on with the project and then you're managing and you're seeing, oh, this particular resource I hired is not actually yielding the expected results. You have to look for a way to do away with that certain resource and get something. Monitoring and control. We can stratify these three phases also in this dimension to say that to plan your resource and estimate your resource, sometimes it's just once. Is done once in the project, just once. Or sometimes maybe at intervals when it is needed. But for acquiring, it may be done periodically. But for monitoring and control, you have to do it continuously. So these are the three approaches in respect to the three phases. I hope this is clear and I hope we understand what is happening. Hope I'm not talking too much and hope I'm being simple to the best of my knowledge. I just want to get a response to that. Are we good to go? Are we good to go?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, moving on to the next slide. We'll have with us here how we're going to plan. Remember, we have on the phase one, which is planning phase. We said we have two processes in the planning phase. So one of it is to plan the resource management, right? So let me give you like a real life or real life scenario to internalize that idea. Let's say you're planning for a wedding and you have 50 guests, right? Versus 3 days planning 50 guests versus planning a 3 days corporate conference for 2,000 delegates across 3 countries, right? So you need to plan for the venue, you plan for the caterers who's going to feed them, obviously, decorators, audio, virtual technicians. You need to plan for these things. And that's what planning for resources is all about. And so we're going to be visiting that shortly. So remember I said there's a framework, or should I say there's a pattern in respect to the PMBOK, which is tied to input and tools and techniques, and the last is the output. When we plan a resource, these are the inputs you have to put at the back of your mind. The project charter tells you what authority you have as the PM. That's one of the inputs when you are when you're planning for your resource. Another input is the scope. The scope and the quality plan. It tells you exactly what must be delivered, right? The scope of work in respect to the objectives must be delivered. The standard of the quality that should be delivered. That's what scope is talking about. You must have to factor it into it. If I'm trying to plan a resource, I have to plan it in line with the scope of work, the quality that is expected. If somebody just give me a certain job and say, do it in a certain manner, I can just bring in any kind, depend on the planning, the scope. You don't expect me to do a project outside scope. That means it's going to be like a scope creep for some of us who are in project management. Scope creeping is you're adding to an already defined scope without having maybe like a board meeting to stratify that change across board. Because adding to scope can change the timeline, can change the schedule, can bring in new risk and all of that. So when you plan resource, you have to put scope in mind. Risk register also is an input, tells you what could realistically go wrong when you bring in that resource. Yes, you have to factor that in. A stakeholder register also tells you who cares about that. There are some persons, I'm going back to our federal government project. You can have a steering committee with several ministers and stakeholders and PAMSECs, and then they say, we want to have this project done. And then somebody says, okay, let's bring in Centraco. And then another says, no, I don't want Centraco. I will want Julius Berger. The reason is because the stakeholder register has so much influence on that certain resource decision, right? So when you're planning a resource, you have to put in the stakeholders' settlement and expectations and decision making, right? So that is for the input. For the two, haven't had your project resource, you need to understand that one of the critical tools there is the RACIS metrics, the responsibility assessment metrics, like some people call it, or the race size, on say RACIS chart or metrics. These usually just tell you who is responsible for a certain job, who can be accountable for another kind of job, and who is to be consulted before a decision is made, and who simply needs to be informed. So one of the two that helps you too in resource planning is the races matrix. Another one is the SWOT analysis. We also have the organization theory. Permit me, because of time, I will just have to quickly run through. On the output, you'll be having the plan itself. Remember, what you want is the resource plan in itself. How you get it is to consider the input, the tool used for it, and then the resource plan itself is the output. You also have a team charter as well as one of the outputs of that. And naturally, you have to update your assumption log, your risk register. If the risk register is already defined and then I'm bringing a new resource into it, we have to update it. Maybe I'm bringing a highly noticeable or notable software developer who has his own preference and his own, should I call it now, his own policies. So you have to factor those things into the risk register, just in case this man has his own kind of character, the way he behaves, or I'm bringing in a new machine to work in the site. We must have done an evaluation on that machine, and based on the evaluation, we should know certain risks involved as much as that machine remains in my site, or this tool I'm using for this job. These are certain risks attached. So you update your risk register. Right, so quickly, oh my goodness, time is running so fast. So second process is to estimate, is estimating, and they just permit me to quickly just go through. So the second process in the planning phase is to estimate your your resource that you will need on the project. And there are three, what do I call these guys now? There are three common techniques you can put side by side in estimating your resource. The first one is the analogous estimating type of technique. This type of technique is where you look at a familiar project that has happened in the past, maybe that is similar to the project you're having, and then you just copy and paste numbers. Okay, imagine, just let me give you an example. Like maybe your last office fit out was for like 40 staff, and it took 3 carpenters and 6 weeks to do that particular office space. And so you're having a similar kind of space this time around. So you just say, okay, last time we did it, we did it with 3 carpenters and 6 weeks. So you just use the same data to say, okay, this is similar. We can then adopt the same resource that is needed for. So this you estimating based on past happenings or projects. The other one is the parametric estimating. This is where you bring in statistics. I'll give us an example. Like say, one chef can cook for 25 guests. So you begin to run the data, measuring variables together. If one chef can cook for 25 guests, so if I have 500 guests, so 20 chefs can do it. So you're just using data to make an estimation decision, right? So this is fast, is accurate. Of course, it's accurate. If 25, if all things being equal, if 25, if a chef can do 25 guests, that means if we can get a chef of that same capacity, they can do 500 guests. So this is you estimating using parametric. Then the other one is the bottom-up estimation. Bottom-up estimation is, I'll give you an example where maybe you have, let's say you estimate labor hours for each individual. Like say, I have 40 people to do a work for me. And I say, this is the scope of work I want you to do. And I have estimated based on your capacity that you can do it for 1 hour. And then I will do the estimation based on the capacity of each of the individual. This is what the bottom up estimation is. So at the end of the day, I collate everything together and then sum it up to say, okay, this is what I need. So that's for bottom up estimation. You're going to get the slide. I think that will better explain to you some of these things. So as usual, remember I said the PMBOK is in this frame, the input, the tools, and the output. When you're estimating a project, the input obviously has to be your schedule management plan. Yes. Also, scope will also be needed. Schedule management plan for the entire project. I know we've talked about schedule management, schedule performance domain. So that's knowledge you need here. You also need to outsource again from the scope. What is the scope saying in respect to resources, right? And then the activities that is to be done, the tasks that is to be done. It helps you to also estimate the resource that you also need. Then cost is another thing. Cost. For example, if the cost budget allocated for that particular action or tax is a millionaire, for example, and then to get a certified engineer is 1.5, obviously no, that is off it because that is over the cost that has been estimated or discussed in respect to that particular resource delivery. So the techniques, you can use any of the ones I've mentioned, the three types of techniques we've mentioned, either the bottom up, the analogous, or the parametric. You can use any of these techniques to help you. All right, so the key, you can use artificial intelligence anyway. I'm just trying to wrap up because of our time. You can use artificial intelligence to help you. We're going to be seeing that later on if we have enough time to look at that. Okay, so the output, obviously, we have to be the resource requirement and the basis of the estimation in the first place. So you're going to have that, the types, the quality, the actual individual. When we talk about the resource requirement is the actual numbers, the actual individuals, the types, the qualities, the basis for your estimate. These are your outputs. Time won't permit me to look at. I have so many real life scenario, but I just want us to. But I hope it's clear so far. I hope I'm being very simple. Okay, let's quickly take this poll, everybody on the call. Let's quickly take this poll. If you can see it, just let me know. Give me thumbs up. I know you can see it. Give me thumbs up. I just want to be sure that we are still here and I'm not just talking to myself because we need everybody to be part of it at this moment. All right. So quickly. Okay. Thank you. All right. So it's an activity I want every one of us to engage in. So he said, the scenario here said, you are the project or the PM for a new mobile banking app. The leadership needs a rough budget estimate today for a board meeting in 2 hours. Your team has never built a banking app before, but your company delivered a similar fintech app last year. So what do you think? Which method do you think you're going to go for? All right, so let me get your responses. Which method do you think will be appropriate? Remember, we talked about estimating. We talked about 3 types. The bottom up, where you have to just, estimate each person and say, okay, this is the total sum of what each person can do. And B, you can say analogous, you look at the previous year project, and then you just use same. If all is being equal, you use the same. Parametric, you go by data. All right, we have all the bees coming. Okay, we have all the bees coming in. Right. Do we have a contrary opinion, anybody? Or should we say the bees have it? Anybody? Do I just have two persons on the call? Good, thank you, Mr. Bello. All right, so everybody's on the bees part. Okay, amazing, amazing. Amazing. All right. So bottom line is just this. There is no single best estimating technique. It's just obviously tied to the decision made depending on the real constraint in the moment. And just like in this case, if these things have been done somewhere, similar app, why, and I have it in 2 hours, a meeting in 2 hours, why crack my head over, getting to, I can similarly just adopt. But for whatever technique you are going to pick, you have to also consider risk management aspect of things, right? Okay, good. Thank you for that engagement for everybody. Thank you so much, SARS. It's really give me so much joy that we're following the class. Thank you so much. All right, now acquiring. We have planned the resource. We have estimated. How then do we acquire, right? So let's just put it into sequence for yeah, I have just 10 minutes for this section before we go into the practicals. I'm actually timing myself here. So let's see. Okay, quickly. Let's just tie this into a sequence. The sequence we've built so far, we've planned the resource, which told us how we handle the resources. We've estimated what we need. And then now we want to then acquire. We want to go after um the resources themselves. Uh, depending on, is it financial resources, is it human resource, is it the physical, material resource in respect to facility? How do we go about it? All right, so there are a whole lot on this screen, but I just want us to understand that when you're going after a resource, you have to consider risk as well. If you don't secure the resource you need, right, in the right amount at the right time, you get schedule delayed. You actually miss out on manufacturing or go live dates or time that can have contextual or contractual penalties attached. So we need to consider in acquiring a resource, we also need to consider the risk involved. And in aspect of risk as well, we need to also consider the person, or if it's a person or human resource, we need to consider, there's some persons who have heart of haste brought in certain resource into their space. And then it turned out that they didn't evaluate the risk attached to it, and then it became a very wrong decision, right? So, um, failing to acquire risk obviously will delay schedule, but obviously we also put in our mind that we have to put in risk management in mind as well. We also have another one, failing to acquire risk, we also lead to damage quality, like I've mentioned, increased cost, then you reduce customer satisfaction. Some persons, there are some projects or there are some businesses whose project processes are tied to real-time customer satisfaction delivery or service delivery. And so acquiring risks has to be planned. It has to be planned. It has to be a proactive action that has to be planned. All right, so I have a real life scenario on the other side of the board, which talks about a bridge project. Okay, a bridge project. Let me see that now. A bridge project. So it's a highway project. Bridge project needs a certified crane operator, and only three exist regionally. Two are already committed somewhere. So you have several alternatives. You negotiate and influence, right? You bring in an alternative from another region. When you're doing that, you are doing that at a higher cost. traveling cost. You also need to consider that the schedule, the schedule of the operator, you have to also consider that. So imagine you having to bring in somebody from a different region, like in this case. These are things that you have to put at the back of your mind as well. And that's why I've also been hitting on the aspect of the risk that is attached the to resource. Now, quickly, input. You need your project plan to acquire a resource. You need your project plan. You need the cost as well. You need to talk about cost. Then you need to talk about the stakeholders' influence and sentiment in respect to that. I can't just bring in a resource that a stakeholder says he doesn't want. So that is also an input for me as well. And one of the tools is negotiation. You have to negotiate. Sorry, permit me, I'm rushing because of time. You have to negotiate is one of the two in acquiring a resource. All right, leading a team, we have different, this is not an leadership class, but just to put into perspective, when we talk about resource management, we also want to tie it to the leader, the project manager. The project manager, you can have so many kinds of persons in your particular project. So leading is a very critical thing. It's a critical thing. We have different types of leadership that is critical to a resource management. And on the screen there, we have centralized leader. We have distributed leader. You have the slide later on. You can look through that. We have the servant leadership. Or you too, as a person, you have your own leadership style. But remember, regardless of the leadership style you have, managing resources is ideally critical to the kind of leadership style that you put into play, right? We have another process here, process 4, which is executing. Executing. Process 4, which is executing the team. Sorry, I'm still on process 4, right? So under executing, we said we have another process called leading the team, right? So the input you have already is still on the team charter, the project team assignment, where you have to delegate certain assignments and role. Another input is lessons learned register. Maybe the previous project you've done in the past, and there are lessons you've learned in respect to a kind of process resource you adopted. You have to bring in those lessons learned. Also, the work performance reports current report that is happening, you need it. For example, if you have a work performance report, you will know that we are not meeting a certain objective in respect to the project, and we need to acquire a certain resource. And when we bring in that resource, we also need to understand how that resource is performing, the performance of that resource. It is what you also bring in when you're discussing the aspect of leading the project. Okay. And then we talked about the tools. One of the things you need to put in mind is leadership, like I mentioned. Your managerial skill is also a tool you bring in mind. Your emotional intelligence as a manager, as a project manager, is also what we bring in mind. If there are need for you to further mentor and coach and train some of the resources, this is the aspect where a leader will have to step up. If there's need, if it's part of the objective that if we have to bring in resource, we have to coach, train them for the job. This is where you as a leader need to understand. And why I have to bring that part is this. If I know that I'm bringing in a resource that's based on the resource or the agreement, we are training this resource, right? So my approach to that resource, for example, if it's a human resource, it has to be different. I'm not expecting some level of professionalism from that particular resource. So my managing that resource will be tied to the reason or the objective of how that resource was acquired in the first place. So I won't bring in somebody who doesn't know much, and I'm speaking in respect to human resource, and then we have an agreement to bring and train. And then I'm there as the project manager, yearning and shouting and, doing some of these things. It will affect the project, because if the resource is being affected in such a way, the project itself will be affected, right? So, all right. Yeah. So a trait of high performing projects. These are the things you need to know if you want to have a high performing project. There must be open communication. There must be an environment where you share knowledge, you share understanding. There must be an opportunity to share ownership. People have to be accountable. They have to own certain processes. Okay, so bringing resource, these certain things should be discussed, not assumed, please. You have to make it, there are certain times when we bring in resources. This, I think, is obviously tied to human resource, I think. There are certain, you can also bring in this. There are certain, performing traits that is tied to other form of resources, right? But for this is particularly tied to human resource. So you have to have an opportunity where you discuss and say, hey, we have an open communication channel here, and the environment that is safe for everybody to hear their view, express, and share knowledge. You know, make everybody accountable, build a team that is full of trust. If you want a high performing project, this is a value or trait you need to communicate as a project manager to your team, right? So every resource in the team must think in the line and in this direction. They have to feel recognized. When someone is doing something good, you need to come to a point where, okay, my effort is being recognized, not just watered down, right? Sorry. Okay, good. We have another poll. Maybe after this poll, we'll just have to do practical because I just have less than 10 minutes to go. Okay, quickly. Second poll, second scenario. Are we still here? Quickly, everybody. Second scenario, quickly. Smart answers may go with $1 billion. $1 billion to this evening. That's on a lighter note. Anyway. All right, so quickly. Another scenario, 2 weeks into a new cross-functional project, team members from marketing and engineering are openly disagreeing in every meeting. Deadlines haven't slipped yet, but tension is rising. As the project manager, what is your first move? All right, everybody on the call, on the chat, what is your first move? A, B, or C? A, B, or C? Quickly, A, B, or C? Help me save my time. I have 9 minutes to go. A, B, or C? A, B, or C? Are we here, please? A, B, or C? Yes. So, okay, B. Okay. Ah, B. Amazing. I think we have more B's here. All right. Anybody with a contrary opinion? Okay, thank you. B is still coming. Good. Just one more person, and then we are good to go. Just one more person. Everybody. B. Good. Yes, I agree with you. B is the most reasonable answer there. B is the most reasonable answer. Thank you. You have to recognize this as a normal storming. Oh, yes, sorry, there's okay, maybe you have the slide and can go through it anyway. We're supposed to talk about the Talkman ladder. I'm sorry, so sorry. Because of the time, I'm trying to haste to catch up with the time. But at least this helps you to understand what is all about. Okay, good. Right. I'll just in one word explain everything that monitoring and control is all about, right? So, like I said, monitoring and control is a continuous process. You may plan once, you may estimate once, you may acquire periodically, like we said earlier on, but controlling and monitoring has to be a continuous process. It has to be a continuous process. You have to ensure that everything is in place. Everything is in place. Okay. Right, let's discuss this in just few minutes. When you are monitoring, there's an aspect of metrics. You don't just monitor out of assumption. You must have a metric in place that genuinely give you real numbers of what is happening, not just by assumption, not just by sentiment. Genuinely, it has to be a system in place that genuinely give you real numbers of what is actually happening. I wish this was a class on Lean Six Sigma. Lean Six Sigma will give you is more about stats that can give you certain dashboards like this. You can use the Sigma XL to plot certain control measures like this. But you can use any AI too, like ClickUp can also help you when you feed ClickUp with certain resources as planned, and then um, how to also feed ClickUp with certain resources as actual planning and then actual happenings. There's a dashboard also in ClickUp that will give you this, this kind of metric dashboard, right? So this is in respect to maybe an agreed term, an agreed time, should I use an agreed, line, a limit. You can then say, for example, in respect to team productivity, this is our agreed time, right? So you can just, for example, you're seeing on the chart, on the stats there, the graph you're seeing, you can see that plan versus actual resource utilization. You can see it was planned 80 and the utilization was 74. So the reason why you need this, if you look at week 3, there is a sharp spike. If you look at all the other ones, you could see that it's just in between 3 to 4, 3 to 4, 3 to 4, or 3 to 5. But you could see at third week, there's a sharp spike. So for a project manager who is constantly monitoring resource management, you would understand there is an issue in week 3, real time issue. And then you have to then dig about it, find out what actually happened. Why am I having such a spike? Before you begin to assume, oh, it's expected of that we have 85 and then we're having 95. You say, okay, it's a good result. Before you conclude to say it's a good outing, please, you have to verify. Permit me, this may be all I can take for now. I want us to quickly go into the practical in the next 5 minutes. Let me just show you what we can do with ClickUp. All right, so I have with me, I'll share again. I have with me a project sample just to spare our time. I have with me the project sample. That's what I'm going to be using. And so I'll just show you. So this is a project sample, and I just took a project sample. Like I have a project title like I'm implementing ISO 9001 quality management system for ABC manufacturing company. This is a project description, and these are the resources that are needed, right? So if I have the description, the objectives, if you have other information to feed it with, you can have it written down here, obviously. But these are the resource I have planned out for this exact project. I need a project manager, a quality consultant. I need an internal auditor or auditors. I need departmental representative, trainer, certification body, meeting room, and all, etc. So you can have this document. What you do is you can permit me to go to Claude and AI2. You can feed this thing on Claude. You can feed this information on Claude. You can see here on Claude, I don't know if it's wide enough for you, but you can see here, I said, develop a resource management plan and a RACI metric for the project below and give your final delivery on PowerPoint. I needed it in PowerPoint. And then from here, everything is all that I copied from my stuff on the Microsoft Word. I fed it with the project title, the project description, and all the resources that is needed, right? So brilliantly, Claude executed this for me and gave me this beautiful, on the far right, the beautiful a resource management plan. Time will not permit me to go into it, but you can see how beautiful it is. I'm scrolling. I may not be able to go into it, right? But it's beautiful, very beautiful, trust me. I may share that with you alongside with the slides so that you can see how Claude came up with a very beautiful slide in respect to project management for this particular project. So you can analyze this particular plan. It talks about the resource management requirement. It talks about the physical requirement that is needed. It talks about, you see that our metric now, it talks about the budget allocation. It talks about the resource calendar deployment for each of those resources that is needed. It talked about training, if there's need for training. Everything here is here. Responsibility, the racist metric is here. So when you're done with that, you download this resource management plan and then you go to click up. Okay, someone is suggesting I drop the prompt. Okay, okay, I'll put it on the Microsoft and feed it to you and send it to you. Right? Yes, it's good because how you prompt these things would also help you when we determine how it will get you back your feedback. So I'm looking for, where is my, please just give me a minute. Sorry. Sorry. I'm trying to look for my, please, if you can see what I'm sharing, let me know. This is the last thing I'm doing, please. Um, oh my goodness. I'm trying to share. Okay, let me just share my entire screen. Let me share my entire screen. All right. So I'll go to click up. This is click up. I've used many of the AI. There's a brain. There's an AI too, an AI assistant on click up. This is just coming up. I just don't know why it's taking time. Uh, okay, beautiful. Amazing. Now I have actually done this. I don't know, I can make this screen wide enough. You can zoom, please guys, you can zoom out on your screen, at least to show you. Right. So on this part where my cursor is, you can see space. You can create a new space. You can create a new space where you add the project title and then the description. Remember our project description, you can add it there. Then also let me just put ABC. Let me just put ABC there too. Just want to show you something here. Now you use it as a project management, right? I'll show you what I've done, but I just wanted you to know this. Use it as a project management. Click on this aspect, and then you create, because different templates depends on the kind of thing you want to do. If you want to run a marketing campaign, you can use this. If it's just for your daily, everyday tasks, you can use this. If it's for a product management, you can use this. But for us, it's a project management, so we're using this. So having done that, you have what I have here. Now, this is what we have. Let me bring out if you're looking at the file where my cursor is, also, you'll be seeing something relating to brain. You're seeing something like brain somewhere. If you can see my cursor, please. It's brain raised to power 2, right? Are you seeing it? This particular thing helped me to create this exact space. So when you click on this, you come to this point here and then add the file of what's it called now? The resource management plan you got from Claude. You add it up here, and Brain literally start helping you build this particular space. He will start giving you suggestions on things to do, start stratifying tasks to all those resources that I have outlined for you. So I can start it. I think I can fetch back my, let me see. I can fetch back. Okay. Aha, amazing. All right, let me see. All right, amazing. I can fetch back some of the conversations I've had. Amazing. Permit me to just, oh my goodness, what's wrong with this? Now you could see, I'm still on this side of my screen. Hope you can see. You remember that our ABC manufacturing QMS resource plan. You seen it there. So I said I attach a resource management plan for your project, auto-generate resource allocation tasks and workload for this project. Make further suggestion for more robust activity to be done with this resource plan. And Brain began to do some wonderful things for me. So he gave me suggestion, and then I said, create the 20 tasks with workload estimate. He did that. So at every point, there's a delivery by this Brain. He gives you suggestion, like a follow-up thing to do. So I kept clicking on the follow-up, and he kept arranging everything, and then this is what we have. You can see it here on the screen. We have everything that we need to do and the resource that is tied to it. You can have it as in a board. Let me take away this. You can see it planning, in progress, at risk. It helps you to know that too. This particular function for team is not available because it's not a free option. This particular one actually speak to the resource. This is where you know every resource, how they are performing, the tasks that have been given to them, what they are doing. Nobody will come and tell you, I'm not doing anything. Sorry, I've done this. This is real-time data that tells you what each resource is actually doing, the tasks they've completed, the one in progress. You will be able to manage the workload. You'll be able to have that. Remember, I told you about the dashboard. You may have a dashboard also that speaks to what they've done so far, but this is not free, right? You have to pay for that particular session. You can see it here. It helps you. You see a dashboard. Remember, we talked about dashboard, but you have to have, and again, just the last thing before I go, you can also, there are many things you can do with ClickUp. I don't have the time to show you. Yes, you can automate your process here. You can automate tasks here. You can auto sign, you can see summary, you can see progress. Man, there's so much to talk about. But I think I just have to end here today. I believe if you explore it yourself, you would see so much. This gives you many things, or it respects you managing your resources with real-time data. Thank you so very much, everybody. I don't know if there are any question. I don't know if there's any maybe inputs. Maybe somebody want to add one or two things to what I've said so far. But for me, I think this is all for you now. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Frank. And please, a round of applause to him. Do we have any question? We need to take just 2 questions. If
Yes,
there is
ma'am.
none, okay, please go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the presentation, Mr. Frank. I just want to ask, when you have, maybe you've been assigned as a project manager, and we've been talking about competence, we've been talking about cost management and all of that. And so when you have resources that are not competent in a particular area of a project, and you need to probably get people from other areas, and the owners of the project are not seeing the need to increase the cost. How do you manage such a situation?
That's a dicey one. That's a dicey one because you have to have a meeting with them, obviously, right? You have to have a meeting with them. For me, based on experience, as a project manager, there's a risk version to project management. There's a risk version to project management. And if you as a project manager, you've identified this as a major risk, you have to have a meeting with them. I mean, an official meeting with the project sponsors, the project owners, and then discuss the disadvantage of this and discuss the likelihood, the impact. When we talk about risk, there is the likelihood and the impact of this thing in the organization or in that particular project. Make sure that that is a discussion that you have with them. Remember, we talked about stakeholders registered. And if after that meeting, they still insist that make do with what is provided, right? Even though it will tell on the project, it is already a documented meeting, so that anything that happens in the future in respect to that project, and there's anything that wants to be tied, or maybe it has to do with the area of competence, you will refer back to that exact meeting where it was actually analyzed. If you give them data, I know how stubborn some stakeholders can be. Trust me, I know how stubborn they can be in respect to costs, right? So, but if you can give them actual data on the implication of bringing in someone who is less competent in this particular area and what it would do to the project, and having seen that, having seen the data, having seen everything, and they decide that, okay, we're still going back to what we've done. This is what we can offer. If you can't get anybody in this line, there's nothing you can do. Please, you have to document it. You have to document that meeting. They have to sign it, like more like a contract. You have to sign it. There's no sentiment to project management. You deal on fact, we deal on actual facts. So if you come and say this is what it is and they says no, then you have to tell them the implication of what that is, and they have to sign to it. At the end of the meeting, there's a minute for that meeting, and there's a signature assigned for that meeting, and it's shared abroad. Is archived in the project. So if there's anything that is tied to it, quickly you can draw it back and say, I mentioned this aspect. Everybody was in the meeting, and it was agreed upon that we should go ahead with this, with what we have. So that is it for me.
Thank you very much. This is really helpful.
All right, thank you. You're welcome.
Can we have one more? Please let's fill up the feedback from the link is in the chat room. Thank you so much, Mr. Frank. In the absence of
I have a question.
okay, let's hear you. That's the last for today, please.
Okay.
Please go ahead with your question. Okay.
Hello.
Please, we can't hear you. Please. Can you type your question? We'll wait for you. Can you type your question?
Okay. Are you hearing me now?
Okay. Yes, we can hear you now.
Please, regards to the project management, if I want to use, if I'm giving a project and I want to use Gantt chart to design that project, so how am I going to work on that?
Okay, for Gantt charts, there are many tools to actually use. Like I said, Claude is one AI tool that really help. But first of all, you need to understand Gantt chart is just a measurement of the timeline, right? The measurement of the timeline, the tasks, and the project. Like you're having a project, you have certain tasks to be done. And then for every task, there's a specified timeline for it. So Gantt chart just give you a virtual view of the entire concept, of tax one, this is a certain project, this is a certain given time. And also in your Gantt chart, you have actual and plan. So these are components that are in the Gantt chart. So if you have a written or maybe even just a PowerPoint, as a PowerPoint that will give me the list of activities that is going to be done in the entire project, a PowerPoint or a Word document that specifies the project, the description, the scope of work, the project timeline. You must have a project plan where there is an high level a timeline for it. If you have those particular information, the tax, the project timeline, the scope, the description, every of these things, you can feed it with Claude. And then tell Claude to design a Gantt chart for you and give you the deliverable in Excel sheet format. And trust me, you will have a very beautiful output. That will give you a virtual representation instead of you going to, design it yourself. It saves time. We live in a digitalized world now, so everything is AI. So, but if you feed it with the right information and you have a specified request for it to give you a Gantt chart, it give you a Gantt chart of it, the entire project in itself. I don't know if that works for you, honestly.
Okay, yeah, I'm okay. Thank you very much.
All right.
All right,
Okay.
thank you so much. Please a round of applause to him. Is someone saying something? Okay. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. I would want to say the class wouldn't hold if you were not on the call. Thank you for everyone who have stayed from the beginning up till now. Even a very big appreciation to those who left and to others who network must have been funny with them. Thank you so much, everyone. So just a quick one before we go. Please fill the feedback form. The link is in the chat room. If you have done that, kindly indicate in the chat room done. Thank you so much, Mr. Reed. Thank you, everyone. And then your assessment, like I said earlier in the day, is very, very important. So if you still have some pending or outstanding assessment to do, please go ahead and do so. We have just less than 3 weeks to go and we'll be rounding up with this program. So I want to believe that all of you would want to graduate. People have paid and then they were not able to graduate and they will not be happy about it. That's because most of them didn't meet up with the assessment. And I want to believe you wouldn't want that to be your case. So that being said, we employ everyone to do your assessment at when due, all right? So you are supposed to do your assessment on or before the next class. So once the link is posted, please go ahead and do your assessment. If there is any problem, always reach out to us and we'll be there to give you responses. And then for those of us not in Nigeria that are still having issues with their payment, please be patient with us. It is because of you that we had to extend the deadline for payments. Please be patient. We will do that and send the payment link to you. Please follow us on all of our social media handles. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you have any question, just feel free to ask us on our WhatsApp number. Thank you so much. The link to the recording of today's session will be shared as usual, as well as the material used. Thank you to all of our trainers from the first to the last person. We appreciate you. Thank you so, so much. If there is any other thing you will hear from us in the course of the week, from me, I would say, have a very beautiful weekend and we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.
Hello.
Bye.
Please, I flashed my phone, so I cannot access any of the document that they are sending on WhatsApp. So I don't know if I can drop my new number so that I can be able
Please
to
send us a
access it.
WhatsApp chat. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Yeah.